to list that. Return a list of those things. So that's why the red squigglies went away. And so now I've got a list of players. And I like to make the explicit declaration on the left-hand side when it isn't immediately clear what's happening on the right. And this is a great opportunity to showcase that, because when I'm debugging, I don't want to have to read through this entire right-hand side operator to know what I'm getting back, because it isn't clear. So I express it on the left-hand side. Okay, so let's just say that I want to do the same thing with monsters. So list of I monster. So very same thing. We'll just type it out to get some good muscle memory going. Of game objects, where x dot game object type is equal to game object types monster dot select I monster on top of that x to list. Okay, and I like the way that it broke that up, so I'm going to do the same thing up here. Okay, so now I got a list of players and monsters. So just to keep things moving, let's go ahead and just do a console. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do a console.write. And we'll say also here space for each var p in players console dot write p dot name. And we'll throw a apostrophe here. There's going to be a better way to do this, and it's going to be a pretty common problem you're going to find in just about every, mainly on the web. But you're going to say, okay, well, I don't want to have a trailing apostrophe, right? So there's some hacky ways to do that. There's some better ways to do that. We're going to deal with it right now. Because it's a great refactoring point, and it allows us to demonstrate that this is an algorithm, right? In the same way that we're really hammering home this point of the single responsibility, that every method should do one thing and do it well. The whole point of this draw room is to draw the room and nothing else, and to do it as efficiently and as uniformly as possible. So, you've got the also here being the players. We'll do a console dot, oops. We want a console dot new line. Where do we want it? All right, we'll see what this does. Might do what we want, might not. So we'll say targets. Shufam says he always does the hacky thing relating to how to get rid of that dangling apostrophe. We all always do the hacky thing. That's what the hacky thing is for. Alright, so then I'm going to do a console dot write line at the end here. I want to give some sort of command bar. Oops. But I don't want to do it here because I want to keep this, again, doing the one thing, just drawing the room. So in chat, Strophum says that he always does the hacky thing, which is to, if the current item is not the last item in the array, then go ahead and write out the apostrophe. And then Angry Masturbator says that string.join is way cleaner. And string.join is cleaner, and then, oh my goodness, it's hard. It's really hard not to like jump into the algorithm. It takes a little bit of discipline to get the complete thought. At least for me, I need to get it out of my head, and then start playing around. And the playing around is always the fun part. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm kind of afraid of messing up sometimes during the demos. I want things to flow very nicely. So some of that avoidance is wanting to get the point out there before kind of chewing on the fat. Okay. So I want to draw out the room, and then as kind of like the command prompt, I want it to be a status bar. And I want it to be based off the current player. So, but it really has nothing to do with the room. It could be anywhere in the game. Even if you aren't looking at the room, I still want to be able to do this. So I don't want to put it in the draw room method, because then I'd be coupled. I'd only be able, and I might have to repeat the code someplace else. Just not great. So I'm going to draw this. I don't have access to the stamina, so this is going to be a great point for us to start looking at our player API, being the things that we need to expose, whether it's a get stamina, get hit points. We've got some places to grow here. So we're going to put down not available. Okay. So now let's see what happens. We've got two algorithms inside of our render class, and we want to see what happens when we draw that room. So now instead of program, let's add some comments, because I'll be checking in this code at the end, and if you want to go in, there's now something we can actually play with, or in the next 4 minutes we're going to start kind of showing some stuff. So if you want to go in, grab the code from GitHub and start playing around with it yourself, absolutely. So let's add some comments for anyone who wants to do that. Create our new game engine. Grab the first room from the seeded content. Say C what was that called? Seed World. Okay. Create 2 players to test with. Okay. So this is where we want to start playing around with our ability to now render out a room and what that means. So we have some options. If we go back into our execute command, we can do it after every execute, right? We can say, hey, redraw the room after every execution, maybe display the command. That could get real chattery, especially doing the console type stuff. So there's a good chance that our Hive mind will need to have another method that controls rendering, right? That's where our bridge comes in. We're going to expect any presentation tier to have this ability to render. And that's going to be a part of instantiating the Hive mind. Is say, hey, you want to use the game engine? Tell me how, or point me at what you're going to use to render out the content. And that's where our bridge comes in. And so if you remember the bridge pattern, that's going to give us the ability to, in 2 different projects, and for the game engine in our core, to have this structured relationship with things that don't even exist yet. And so that when we come into our console, we can say, hey, new Hive mind, oh, it already knew I was going to need a rendering mechanism, so let me go ahead and pass that in. And then Hive mind will call whatever we want as the render within its build logic. But we aren't there yet, so let's just do it the manual way. Okay, got a few minutes left. So, let's just instead of render, we made it static, which might change, but for our quick needs, we're going to say render dot draw room. I'm going to pass it the room. And I'm going to say render dot draw status bar, and we're going to pass it in Gary. So we're pretending that Gary is us for this. And then we're going to execute a response and write out that response, and then we're going to read the line. And after that response, we're going to draw the status bar again. Okay. So it's going to be very kind of scripty when we see it, but it'll be a good example. So just to hammer home the point, when we were doing all our testing before, we had all of these lines that are now commented out where we are throwing attacks around, but formatting the lines ourselves and doing things very manually. And now we've got a cleaner ability. It's going to keep getting cleaner, but we've got a cleaner ability to kind of use the game engine and use the logic and just make requests of the API. So I'll come here, I'll hit start. All right, so I'm going to draw the room. And because we love playing the lottery and writing things once and seeing if they work, I'm going to hit F10. All right. Unable to cast object of type zombie to type iPlayer. Reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. Let's go ahead and stop this and take a look at our bug.